Hello and welcome to Switch Game, and welcome back to my top 100 games of all time for the Nintendo Switch as of 2024. In this video, we'll be going over my number 81 through 90. If you enjoyed the content, drop a like and sub, I would greatly appreciate it. If you have a disagreement with my list, that is perfectly okay. I ask that you go ahead and let me know in the comments what you disagree with, but do so respectfully. If there's a game on the list that is new to you and you're thinking, hey, maybe I should give that a try and I brought this to your attention, let me know as well, because that's kind of the purpose of the list. With all that being said, let me remind you that I am still doing the giveaway for that copy of Bayonetta. All you gotta do to win the copy is comment on the video. With all that housekeeping out of the way, back to the list with my number 90. Coming in at number 90, we have a game that needs no introduction. You've probably heard of it, and if you haven't, you've been living under a rock for a long time, and that is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. The reason it is so low on my list, because I play it, as you guessed, on my PC. The thing is, the graphical downgrade that this game received is completely worth just having it on the go. There's hundreds of hours of content in this cartridge and whatever you have to download, and that is what makes it so great. It comes with 2 of the main expansions as well as, 16 DLCs, and it's worth every bit of investment that you put into it because it is just such a compelling story. You play as Geralt, the Witcher, as he goes around the world hunting monsters for sport or for cash, and you unravel this great storyline that basically plays out with him becoming the hero or the villain. You'll have to play and find out, but that's what makes The Witcher so great. I love this game so much that I actually did buy it 3 times. I have it on my Switch, I have it on my PC, and I have it on my PS5. This game is fantastic, and I know I'm a sucker, I'm a shill, I gave them my money 3 times, I'm an idiot, but how many times have you rebought Resident Evil 4 or Skyrim? Let's go to my number 89. Coming in at number 89 is a game that was actually on my favorite horror games for the Switch, so naturally it's going to be here, and that is Red Colony Trilogy. As I said in that initial video, this is not a great game. Don't buy this expecting a AAA, A+ tier, 10 out of 10 experience. This is kind of like The Room for video games for me. It's so bad that it's good. When I play it, I can't help but have a good time because there are some really stupid things that happen in it. Yes, I know there's a lot of that in there, but that's not the main reason that I enjoy it. It actually has a really good puzzle system because you're playing these characters trying to escape some facility, filled with zombies and dinosaurs. I don't understand the dinosaurs. You'd have to play it and find out yourself. But anyways, you're basically trying to get them out. And the puzzle aspects and the survival horror aspects are surprisingly done really well. It was actually a shock. I know the visuals are terrible. It looks like a Flashpoint game you played back on Newgrounds.com in the early 2000s, but the fact of the matter is, for me, this has always been a game I've really enjoyed, and that is my number 89, Red Colony Trilogy. Coming in at number 88 is a game that I absolutely love regardless of what the critics think. The game aggregates around a 5 or a 6, and that's fair. The game isn't the best out there. It honestly goes better than Red Colony Trilogy that I just put on my number 89. I am talking about Sword of the Vagrant. Now, this game takes heavy inspiration from the folks over at Vanillaware, the ones who brought us Dragon's Crown, who are also doing Unicorn Overlord, my most anticipated game of next year. And you can tell immediately by the art style that they're using. The thing is, though, the game has a very bare bones combat style. It's a hack and slash side scroll game to the max. There's not much flair there. There are some skills and abilities, obviously, but whether you choose or not to engage in like some heavy combo breaking, it doesn't matter. The game is still going to be easy to beat. The thing, though, that I like about it is, 1, the art style, 2, the simplicity, and 3, the story. The story has your character, Vivian, if I recall correctly. She gets cursed by an evil witch, and the evil witch tells her, like, hey, you gotta go collect all these artifacts for me, and if you don't, I'm just gonna kill you. So she starts going off on this adventure to collect all these artifacts to basically, win her life back, and every once in a while, the witch will send one of her minions to keep an eye on you, and that's kind of the story. You're just running around trying to collect these artifacts for this evil witch, and you'll see how things play out if you beat it. Very simple and bare bones, but when you read all the exposition and dialogue between the characters, you start to understand a bit more why the witch did what she did, why your village was targeted, and all that. You also start to learn obviously more about her and her backstory and why you would want to care about this character. It does have a really cool skill tree system in it, which kind of keeps you engaged of how you want your character to grow, and like I said, the story is really engaging, and probably the only reason why it is this high. If the story of this game was really bad and I hated the story, this probably wouldn't even crack my top 100, but the mix of the art, the story, and the combat all together make it in my top 100 as my number 88. Coming in at number 87, we have another game that was on my top horror list, and that is Tormented Souls. You play as Carolyn Walker, who wakes up in a bathtub in some mysterious area and she has to find her way out. The thing that I love about this game and the reason why it is so high on my list is this evokes those feelings of early Resident Evil titles, with fixed camera angles, hard as hell puzzles, difficult and challenging enemies, and limited supplies. This is basically an RE clone if there ever was one. It has some technical issues. The opening cutscene has one of my favorite glitches I've ever seen, where the character, as she's getting out of the tub, you can see the socket where they attach the arm to the torso graphically, and you can see the break in between. It's ridiculous. Again, we're talking the room level of silliness to the point to where it's so bad that it's good. But if you can overlook those little tiny details like that, what you have is an actually competent Resident Evil clone. Now, this game isn't winning any awards or breaking any records, but the truth is even though it reviewed very low, I still think it's actually a really good game. If you can look past the technical, issues of, arm sockets, it's not that bad. It's a very competent survival horror. I do recall a lot of Twitch streamers were playing this because, as with Twitch, it's fun to watch them play scary games because it's hilarious when they get scared. And that's actually how I found out about it. I didn't even know about this game until I saw someone playing it on Twitch, and I checked it out, and I'm like, oh, this actually looks like, Resident Evil. Let me give it a look. I found it on Switch, and I've never looked back. This is one of my favorite games on the Switch at number 87. Tormented Souls. Coming in at number 86 is one that I would highly classify as a hidden gem. It's a game that I've thoroughly enjoyed ever since I bought it, and then I loved it so much I went and got a physical copy from Limited Run Games. Unfortunately, it's a digital only title unless you're lucky enough to find a physical, and that is Blacksmith of the Sand Kingdom. This is a game that I expected to not enjoy at all, but it kept popping up on my eShop recommended list, so I figured I'd give it a try. Basically, you're playing as the court blacksmith in, you guessed it, the Sand Kingdom, and it is your job to create the weapons, armor, and items that the kingdom needs to function. Your basic gameplay loop is going to be you going out, battling monsters and collecting materials, going back to your shop and going into the menus and creating armor and weapons, then taking those armor and weapons and upgrading them to make them even better so they sell for more, and then at night putting them on the shop and going to bed. When you awaken, you'll have all the gold ready to go, and you can buy more materials that you need to mix with the monster parts to do the upgrades to sell in the shop. You see where I'm going. It's a fantastic game. I honestly couldn't even really tell you what the story was because the story is highly irrelevant. As for the JRPG turn-based combat, it is again irrelevant. It's on the backseat. It's there. It has some minor depth to it, but it's not what you're here for. You're here to manage the shop and play this as a shop simulator, and if that's the type of gameplay you enjoy, I would highly recommend my number 86, Blacksmith of the Sand Kingdom. Coming in at number 85, we have a game that's based on an IP that everyone expected to be a dumpster fire upon release. After all, the movie that this is based on was one of the worst movies of the year that it came out in. I am talking about The Mummy Demastered. Sadly, this is a digital-only title that you can get on the eShop. Limited Run Games did do a physical copy of it, but unfortunately I didn't know about them back then, so I never got my hands on one. This game is a side-scrolling shooter, and it takes very heavy cues from games like Metroid and Contra. You're battling these supernatural enemies using guns of all types of varieties until you get to giant bosses that are just screen hogs, and it's absolutely awesome. I really like this game, and I think everybody was absolutely shocked when it came out, and it's been getting 8s, 9s, and even some 10s across the board. It's a great side-scrolling shooter, and if you love shoot-'em-ups, this is going to be a game you're definitely going to want to give a try. Don't sleep on it just because of the IP. I know a lot of us did initially, myself included, but once the gameplay started coming out and the reviews hit the table, I was like, wow, I gotta give this a try. I bought it for a few bucks off the eShop, and I'm so glad that I did. That is my number 85, The Mummy Demastered. Coming in at 84 is a game that I wish I could put a lot higher on this list. I really enjoy it because they're trying something new in it, and I really want to applaud them for that. However, the controls on the Switch are really bad, the characters are very bland, and the story overall didn't really encapsulate my interest. And I am talking about Diofield Chronicles. I know that made it sound like it's a bad game, but trust me, it's not. What they're trying to do here is commendable. They're trying to take a story that would normally take place in a tactics RPG, think like Final Fantasy Tactics, and they're putting it in a real-time strategy game like something along the lines of StarCraft. It's a great concept that they're striving for here, and I think they're very close to greatness. The characters, like I said, are unfortunately just bland, and I don't really attach to any of them. But I'm not here for the character, and honestly, I'm not here for the story either. I'm here for the combat, because the unique combat that this thing employs is phenomenal, man. I cannot express how great it is. You control legions of soldiers, and you're moving them in groups to go interact with the other legions that are coming towards you, and you have them battle it out, and hopefully your side wins. The equipment system is a little simple, but that's a good thing, because there's a lot of units that you have to manage, and the job system is pretty bare bones. But again, there's another element to it that you have to realize before you make your determination that it's junk. Although there are only 4 classes, there's a plethora of equipment that you can give them, and based on what weapon they're holding is how they function in the game. The best and easiest example is if you give a warrior a dagger, he basically becomes a rogue, and stuff like that is what makes the system so simple yet complex. It's one that you really have to dive into it to understand, and to me, it's completely worth it. I know this game is middling in its reviews, but again, we're talking about one of the most unique experiences I think you'll have on the Switch when it comes to the way the combat plays out, and that's my number 84, Diofield Chronicles. Number 83 is a game based on one of the most popular IPs in sci-fi. It's also touted as one of the best horror games ever in video games, and it has one of the best AI systems for the enemy that we've ever seen, and I am talking about Alien Isolation. I have a physical here from Limited Run Games, and I'm so happy that I added this to my collection. The only reason that this game is so far back at number 83, as you guessed, is because I play it on my computer most of the time. And when I look at the graphical downgrades that this version had to receive in order for it to run on the Switch, I would rather just play it on my PC when I'm able. But that doesn't take away from the fact that playing this in the dark in my room, in my bed, while I'm by myself is an absolutely terrifying experience. They did such a great job porting this, and it runs surprisingly well. One of the reasons that this game is in my top 100, besides the fact that yes, it's a great game, is the fact that this is canon to the story of Aliens. Everything that happened in here actually happened in that universe, which is awesome. Whether or not you like the Aliens universe when we talk about Alien 3 and beyond, the fact that this takes place between 1 and 2, it's a great experience with a great story, makes this an absolute winner. If you're not sure what the story of this is, you know, whether you've heard of the game or not, you're basically playing Ellen Ripley's daughter as she goes upon the Sevastopol to try to figure out what happened to her mother. Now, if you've seen Aliens and you watch the director's cut, you remember that scene where she's sitting in the room kind of reminiscing about her daughter. She's on that giant screen. That's the daughter that we're talking about here. Ripley unfortunately missed her whole life because she was stuck in cryosleep for so long that her daughter passed away from old age. Well, this is that adventure of her daughter trying to find her mother before she settled down on Earth. It's a great story. It has great scares. It's absolutely terrifying when you're running from the alien and you know it kind of knows where you are and you're trying to hide in a cupboard praying it doesn't smell you or something. I could go on and gush about this game forever. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and that is Alien Isolation, my number 83. Coming in at number 82 is a game in one of my favorite gaming series of all time, Pokemon. I've been playing Pokemon ever since I got Pokemon Blue on my Game Boy Pocket way back in the late 90s. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, which is my number 82, is a game that I shouldn't like. I should not enjoy Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX. There's nothing about this game that screams my style of game. But for some reason, my love of the early seasons of the anime really pushes the reason why this game is so high on my list. I'm used to the Pokemon having personality that you don't normally get in the real series, and that personality shines through in these games. The Pokemon are talking to each other, having full-blown conversations. Sure, the conversations they have are kid-friendly and honestly sometimes kind of stupid and hokey, but it's still a great experience if you love the IP. You play as a Pokemon, you're not a Pokemon trainer, and you're running around trying to help all these other Pokemon who are having a bad day for one reason or the other, and you just gotta resolve their problem. And it unfortunately always involves going in some deep dark dungeon. You take a team and you go down and you try to defeat the big bad or whatever and get out with whatever resources you can so you could do it again another time. It's a lot of fun. It's very bare bones. It's very basic. The combat is not that difficult. It's still a turn-based combat, but it's not as grandiose as the main series. There's no EV training or IV breeding or anything like that here, and your Pokemon only have a certain number of moves that they can learn. It's nothing like the main series. But for some reason, seeing Pokemon interact with each other as if they're having actual conversations, like unlike what we see in the show and unlike what we see in the main series, it's just a very charming experience for someone who loves this IP. The art style is also really, really cool. They tell the story in this like watercolory art style that's really unique, and I really enjoy it, and I kind of wish the game would use that art style in the main series rather than giving us full-blown 3D cutscenes where characters' mouths are moving and we have to read text because they still haven't put voice acting into the game. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX is just a fantastic sit on the couch, relax, kick your feet up, and play a Pokemon game without having to get too deep in your thoughts. The other thing that makes this game so great is just I don't think you can actually finish it in a reasonable amount of time if you're trying to complete everything, because the dungeons kind of change every time you go into them and the quests basically are on a revolving conveyor belt. You're never going to complete this game unless you put hundreds of hours into it, which I'm personally not going to do. But if you love it and this basically becomes, you know, your bathroom game, if you know what I mean, you're going to get there one day and it's going to feel like such an accomplishment. I'm going to stop right there. I'm going on a tangent. It's a good tangent, mind you, but it's going to keep going if I don't stop myself. That is my number 82, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX. Alright folks, we've made it to the final game on this list, my number 81. It's a game in the Mario Sports series where we have Mario Tennis, Mario Golf, Mario Strikers, Mario Olympics, and more. Which one is your favorite in the Mario series? I'm actually quite curious to see what everyone likes. Let me know in the comments down below. My favorite in the series is Mario Golf Super Rush. I don't know why, but I've always enjoyed golf in a video game format. I've played Mario Golf since I owned it on my Game Boy Color, way back in the day. I got it for the N64, I got the Wii version, and now I have the Switch version. I've always really been intrigued by Mario Golf and, to be honest, other golf games in a video game format. The actual game itself I find extremely boring. I do not like watching it on TV, and the few times I've actually played it, I found it extremely boring. But for some reason, when you put it in a video game format and I can control all the stats and mitigation and everything, I have a lot of fun with it. I've always enjoyed the PGA series of games. I remember when I had it on my PlayStation 2 where you had to use the thumbstick to hit it, and if you accidentally turned the thumbstick left or right while you were going back and forth, it would curve the ball, and it was like, oh, it was always a big mistake when you did that. For some reason, golf in a video game format just really intrigues me. Now, that being said, this game does something really fun. It has this Super Rush mode, and this Super Rush mode is so cool in the concept of golf when you know how golf is played overall. Normally when you play golf, everyone takes a turn hitting their ball. The person who's farthest away from the hole then gets to go, and then the next farthest, and so on. But in the Super Rush mode, everybody tees off at the same time, and then it's a mad dash to get to your ball so you can keep hitting it and try to be the first one to get it in the hole. That means that anyone, regardless of how close or how far they hit it, can get to their ball and get it in before you if you don't get there first. It's a fun, fast, exhilarating mode that I actually really enjoy. Sadly, the game doesn't really have much beyond that. The game also has an adventure mode where you can play with your Mii and going through this whole storyline, but I'll be honest with you, I've only played through it once, and that was as much as I really wanted to play. What really intrigues me was the online capabilities. Playing online with other people doing the Super Rush mode or just trying to out-tee them in an actual standard golf match is a lot of fun. All the characters are animated beautifully, and it's just a Mario Golf game through and through. Again, what is your favorite in the Mario Sports series? I'm very curious to see how many people like golf or tennis or the soccer game, because in truth, some of these sports that they give Mario aren't the sports we all like. I would love another Mario baseball game. I think that would be really fun. And honestly, what about a Mario football game? Football being American football. You could have the Koopas be the generic characters and the Toads be the generic characters, and then Mario, Luigi, Bowser, they could be all the main characters that you control. That to me sounds like a great time. Come on, Nintendo, Mario football, let's go. Anyways, that's my number 81 and the final game on today's list, Mario Golf Super Rush. Well, there you go, my 81 through 90. If there's anything on the list that you agree with or disagree with, let me know in the comments down below. Was there a new game that you just learned about on this list that you're gonna try now? I would love to hear about it. And remember, I also wanna know, what is your favorite Mario Sports Series game? Again, I like golf, but do you like tennis? What about the soccer game? Let me know, I would love to hear from you. As always, if you enjoy the content, drop a like and sub. It really helps the channel. My channel is brand new and all your interactions help immensely. That being said, I'll see you guys on Friday with the next list, number 71 through 80. And as always, have a great day.